This video is an interesting topic because, when it comes to life, there are some experiences that you kind of just repress or, like keep buried inside. Like they happen and you try to move away from those situations, mentally and emotionally. And then sometimes things will happen that kind of, kickstart those hidden experiences and all those emotions come rushing back like you just experienced it. Recently, I had a conversation with a friend of mine I haven't seen in quite a while. I think maybe since high school, if I'm not mistaken. And we just talked about, life in terms like, so what happened after, we left high school in '09. So, talked about college life, this, that, and the third. And, I brought up how, I went to Liberty University after I graduated high school. And then I ended up working there for a little while. Then I, started YouTube, and I've been doing that full time since. And he talked about how, hey, I was going to go to Liberty, but I decided not to because I felt like they were too strict, so many rules and whatnot. And, I know that school, while, and remember at the time, this was 2009 after I graduated high school. I didn't go to campus until 2010. I was an on-campus residential student from 2010 to 2014. My first official semester was an online semester in the fall of '09. Granted, if I knew then what I know now, I would have done the entire thing online. But in '09, there was nowhere near as expansive an online university with Liberty's catalog as it is now. And I worked as a Liberty University online academic advisor for 3 years. And it just keeps growing and growing. But at that time, you really had to go on campus to get not just a degree, but, the full experience. So the conversation shifted to, when it comes to Liberty, it's kind of political, mostly Republican for the most part, even though they try to act like they don't promote it, but you can tell by the way they do things. And then he asked the question of, what was it like being at Liberty and being black? I don't know what the title of this video, Liberty University, wow, black or something like that. But I feel like maybe the title should be something more direct and honest, like, in regards to racism. Did I ever feel like I was racially profiled, or did I deal with racism at Liberty University? And to be completely honest, because this is my story, in some ways I do feel like I did feel like I was being racially profiled, or I dealt with racism. And it really came during the period of Barack Obama's re-election in, I believe, 2012. That's when it felt like, dang, okay, this is a scary time. I ain't gonna hold you. It was rough for at least, a good few weeks, leading up to the election. Damn. I ain't gonna lie. I'm getting emotional just thinking about it because I honestly have not. It's been like over a decade, but when I think back to that time, that shit was kind of rough. On the dorm I was on, it was like me and maybe two other black people. And I remember being afraid. Like me and good friend of mine, we were concerned because we knew something might pop off, especially if Obama won that re-election. Because I remember that night at one of the student halls, I think it was the town's auditorium or something, there was like a, live event, like, hey, everybody come together, we'll watch the poll results live. And I'm like, nah, I ain't doing that. I remember being in the computer lab getting some work done from a graphic design class, but then I went right back to my dorm. I'm like, nope, I don't want to be out anywhere in case, shit went crazy. I remember my friend, he was like, yeah, a group of us, black students, we were towards the back. And when the results came in, we saw how the crowd was turning, so we just up and left because we knew something was going to go down. And I think for me, being on the hall, it was wild because I had two roommates who I don't think they were fully black, but at the same time, they weren't black. They were, white or, whatever the nationality was. But you could tell they were not Obama fans. And being the only black kid is kind of like, oh shit. Because I remember like my, what were they called? The hall. RAs. I remember my RA at the time, and my roommate. They were talking about the election. I knew one thing going to Liberty University before I went, not to talk politics at all. I mean, with religion, it's a Christian school. Yeah, you talk religion, but in terms of you can always live by what Linus said in The Great Pumpkin. There are 3 things I've learned never to discuss with people: religion, politics, and The Great Pumpkin. Maybe not that last one, because I don't really talk to Great Pumpkin unless it's Halloween and we're talking about some classic films or specials. But I remember the fact that so many of the white students were in denial before the election results. They're like, well, based on the numbers, I'm pretty sure he's going to win. Like, this state, that state. This was as the results were happening. Because, I was actually... the election was late at night. So I remember being in the computer lab when some states were, pulling in their final results. I remember going back to my room, and my roommate, who was very friendly at the time, we were cool. We were cool the entire year. But this was when I felt like, okay, this is some bullshit. I remember being in the room by myself, and this was after the results came in. Like, we were cool. Like, anytime we saw each other, like, hey, man, what's up? So I'm in my room just at my computer. I say, hey, man, what's up? He sits down. He doesn't say a word, doesn't look at me. He sits down. He puts his head in his hands, and then he just shoves his desk against the wall, and he steps out of the room. He's pissed. I'm like, oh, so it's like that. Then it got kind of scary because he comes in there with 4 other white boys from up the hall. I'm in my bunk bed. I'm in the like the, not the, top bunk. I got my own bunk by itself, because in the room it was set up where you have a bunk bed, a bottom bunk, top bunk, and then you got a separate bed that's like you have the bunk bed on top, but underneath is like where you can fit your desk and all. That's where my stuff was. I'm in the top bunk just chilling, and these guys are all in a circle. They just looking all sad and shit, just talking nonstop trash about Obama, and that black monkey in the office and shit. And I'm just sitting there like, I'm right here. But the thing was, you couldn't really do anything, because when you're one black person in a room with like 7 angry white people, and you're on a hallway where the black people is like 4 to like 32, and you're on a campus where it's a majority white people. I mean, Liberty is a melting pot, but black people are clearly in the minority here. It felt rough. Like, I would have to say that's one of the scariest moments I ever dealt with on campus. And like I said, I never really talked about this stuff, but it's just that the conversation I had with my friend, it just opened my eyes to like, dang, man, you really went through it. It's like, I just didn't really think too much of it at the time. But, it's sad to say, but when, I had been at Liberty for 2 years at that point, or going on 2 years, because spring and fall of 2010, on campus, 2011. No, it was 2 years. Yeah, it was over 2 years. And I remember walking down the hall to get some water, because we had a water fountain in the hallway, and one of the guys like, Obama won. Thanks, Jeremy. It's your fault. And I'm like, motherfucker, I ain't even vote that time, because I think, and this shows how much of a dummy I was. If I remember correctly, I was 17 when I left high school. This would have been the first election I could have voted, but I filled out the form wrong. I basically filled it out where I could only vote in my hometown as opposed to Lynchburg. Oops. And I wasn't able to vote that time. But, cause I'm like, bro, I didn't even vote. Like, what the hell? It's like, and then later on that night or the next day, he was like, hey man, Jeremy, I was just kidding about last night. And it's kind of like, wow. So there's that. So the Obama re-election definitely was a trying time. Like, I remember the next morning, my roommates didn't say anything to me at all. They were just talking to each other. It's like, hey man, so that shampoo looks good. I mean, they're just talking about gibberish. I remember getting ready, getting out of the room to go to convocation, and this was really when I felt like such a air of tension around the campus itself. It's funny because when I was a CFA, or college for a weekend student, I went to Liberty twice during my junior and senior year of high school. Like, I decided like mid 12th grade that I was going to Liberty, mainly because one, it was only an hour away from where where my home was. B, they offered the best scholarship deal compared to every other every other college. And when I went to college for a weekend, I truly felt the spiritual aspect of the campus. But if there was ever a time where I felt like I was an outsider, I didn't belong, and Liberty was the wrong college for me, it was definitely during the Obama re-election, because it definitely felt less Christian and more politically divided, and definitely racially empowered, if you will, in terms of black people were not looked at fondly. And like I said, I'm only speaking from my experience. I don't know about any other African American individuals who were on campus during that time, but I remember it being, rough. And mind you, this is prior to, former Chancellor Jerry Falwell and his whole situation going down, and the alignment with Trump and this, that, and the third. I'm talking during the Obama years. And I remember walking out of the door in the convocation in the Vine Center, and this white kid, I'm crossing the street. He's coming from the other direction. Granted, we're the only two in this particular area of the parking lot and whatnot. This boy literally went out of his way to just cut me off. Like, he kind of like sprinted just to like cut me off, as opposed to, keeping his distance or whatever. He just like did that. I'm like, wow, okay, that's how it is. It really is one of these situations. Then I remember getting to the Vine Center, and students were going in, and common courtesy to hold the door for people. And there was this girl, she was white, she was holding the door for a bunch of students who happened to be white. And I saw her holding the door for a lot of people. I come up, she looked at me and literally shut the door. I was like, okay, wow, all right, this is what this school is. And then I remember, I think his name, he was like a veteran or something, Tim Lee. And he was the speaker, and the whole thing, the entire Vine Center was just, oh God, it was tense as hell. But, props to like my, it was one of the guys on the hall. He was like the first person that day who actually showed any sort of acknowledgement, like, hey Jeremy, how you doing? Like, it felt so good to have one person like, oh wow, this person isn't an asshole today. And he was white. But the entire convocation, it just felt like a defeatist attitude in the entire stadium, because oh my God, our guy didn't win. And I forgot who Obama was going up against. Was it Mitt Romney? I think it was. I think, because at commencement, I'll never forget, I was sitting beside this white girl, and Mitt Romney spoke. And look, politics aside, I thought like, wow, this is pretty cool. Like, I could be listening to the next president of the United States speaking at the convocation. This was when I graduated with my bachelor's. And I was, I think this was my last year before I started grad school. Yeah, because I was actually working on some associates and a minor at the time. But regardless, when Falwell was like, you know what, at Liberty, we don't endorse politicians or anything like that, but he did a whole spiel about how Liberty doesn't affiliate itself with political parties and whatnot. But then as he's introducing Mitt Romney, he goes, and now I'd like to introduce to the stage the next president of the United States, Mitt Romney. The white girl beside me said, what the fuck did he just say? And I remember we all bust out laughing. I'm like, oh man, that was hilarious. But yeah, so Tim Lee, I forgot, or was it Johnny Moore? Oh, okay, Tim Lee was the speaker, but I think Johnny Moore was like the announcement guy. And it was either him or somebody. And they said that what is that dude's name? Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow was speaking at Convo. From that moment on, people just kind of forgot. They were like excited, because remember, this one, Tim Tebow was like the shit. Like everybody loved him. And being at Liberty, all the white girls wanted to be with him, like, oh, Tim Tebow, because I think he kind of went viral. He was like Colin Kaepernick, but while Colin was about kneeling, police brutality and whatnot, Tim Tebow was known for, I believe, his faith and Christianity and whatnot. So every girl wanted to be with him. And I remember the convocation he actually came. That place was crowded. It felt like a one of the Duck Dynasty people showed up because it was crowded as I don't know what, but girls just loved him. But basically, the entire service felt very tense. But the moment Tim Tebow was announced to be coming to Convo, that's when everybody just changed their attitude. And then Tim Lee's whole speech was about, not giving up and whatnot. And I just feel like the only reason he preached that was because Romney lost the race. So yeah, the entire Obama saga was rough. And I remember leading up to the election, one of the white guys from the hall who happened to be my roommate at the time, I remember walking to the what do they call it, the cafeteria, and I was walking behind the group. I was on my phone, but I overheard the conversation. I was a few steps away. I remember hearing this dude literally say, "Man, if Obama," yeah, he had a southern accent. He's like, "Man, I swear, if Obama wins the election, I'll assassinate him myself." And I'm like, wow. So yeah, shit won't good all the time. And you're probably wondering, like, why did you say I needed the education? Trust and believe. I look back at some things, and the crazy part was I don't regret my education at Liberty, but the experience itself with some of the students, especially in times during the Obama era, if you will, that's when stuff got rough. I went to class, did what I needed to do. It was all good. Believe it or not, every time, and look, despite all the crazy things that have happened over the past few years in regards to the Falwells, in terms of my own personal experience, I didn't know them on a personal level, but I've encountered them many times on campus, and they do remember me. I don't know, like, it's 2023. I couldn't tell you that if I talked to the Falwells now if they would know me, but I mean, like, during my time on campus and, like, the coffee house events, I would sometimes get like table seats, and you can interact with the the Falwell family there, or out see more on campus. They knew me as like the Cantaloupe Festival guy because I'm from Halifax County, so that's what we're big for in Virginia, the Cantaloupe Festival. But regardless, it's just one of those situations where the things you would think would have dealt controversy, the things you would have expected at Liberty to be like, yo, I see, oh, you're talking about racism, then you must be talking about those people. Nah, I'm talking about like students and stuff like that. But another part to talk about here is I remember one time there was the one thing about Liberty, another thing is the conversation about like human trafficking and stuff like that. And I remember being in a room on the hallway just talking with some of the guys, and this guy came in here. He was just talking about, basically he was just talking shit in regards to like, black people go on and on about slavery, but, there's been much worse, like, human trafficking and whatnot. And I'm like, yo, man, what are you talking about? He's like, slavery went on. It's like, no, but yeah, 300 years, whatever. But what, there have been far more percentage of people who have been, enslaved in other countries and whatnot. And I just hate it. And it's just like one of those things where I'm like, I think this was maybe like towards my last year and I was just done with this shit. Like, bro, you're not going to just sit up here, especially when I'm sitting up in here and going to talk like, black people having struggle. It's just like the black experience, if you will, was completely undermined by anything that wasn't that basically slavery, wham, get over it. You know what? This group of people had it harder, this, that, and the third. So, yeah, man, there were so many people that made me wonder, what am I doing here? And, like, is this really a Christian school? But I guess when I don't know. Dang. It really makes you look at things differently. Like I said, like these things I have not thought about in quite a while, but it's like, what could you really do? Especially when you're outnumbered in situations like this. Are there other stories? Yeah, I got a few more. But, I just wanted to get this video out there. This isn't me trying to bash the school and whatnot, but like I said, it's just like, I've just felt it on my heart. Like, after that conversation with that buddy of mine, I'm like, man, I just had to get this out there. But, like I said, I don't regret my education at all at Liberty. It's just the experience at times could be kind of rough. So, if you want to hear those stories, let me know. Let's see how well this video does. But I got an entire Liberty playlist. I think it's about 11 or 13 videos on there. I did these years ago. Some of these I did back in like 2017 and 2018. I remember doing, this was after I had left my call center job. And, I talked about, the experience of what it meant to be an employee at Liberty, the ups and downs of that. Oh yeah, I think I did a video. I'm looking at my list now. September 24th, 2018. Black man on campus when Obama was reelected. I think my series was called Confessions of a Liberty University Alumnus. So yeah, go ahead and check those out. I'll leave the playlist somewhere on screen towards the end of this video. But yeah, thanks so much for tuning in, and I will catch you in the next one.